Okay, so I'll go over the answers with you, and let me share my screen. Can you see my screen with the code? Okay. So since you're the only one here, I will use, we can go over your answers. Okay. So this is basically what you had. Now, for the first part, we want to the sum of all the boxes of all the cookie orders. So this is good. This is, you're adding all the sum of the cookie boxes, and then you're returning that at the end. So that's good. And then what you did here for the for loop is good because you are just going through every item in the list. Just one thing to be careful about, orders, it's actually orders.size parentheses because that is a method instead of like an instance. So like for arrays, you can just do like array.length and that's fine. But for lists, you just want to make sure you do list.size parentheses because that's like a method. And also for string, you want to do .length parentheses. So make sure you know the difference between all of these. That's good. You have orders.size and I++, that's good. And then, so basically in the question, if you see part A, they tell you that get total boxes method computes and returns the sum of the number of boxes. Oh, okay. No. Actually, if you look in the cookie order class, do you see any methods that you can use for this method that you're writing? So like if you look at the cookie order class from the problem, you have a constructor that creates a new cookie order object. Then you have a get variety method where it returns the variety of cookie, and then it has the get num boxes method which returns the number of boxes being ordered. Yeah. So basically, I'm not exactly sure what you meant by this part right here, but what you can do is, because they already have the method written for you, it's just, they just don't show you the implementation, but they're basically telling you that you can use that method. So you can just do get num boxes. You can just call this method from the cookie order class. And because all the objects in the orders list is a cookie order class, you can just bring that object, that's basically the object of cookie order, and then you can call the method get num boxes method on that order. Does this make sense? Do you have any questions on this one? Yeah. I think you just have to be like a little more careful, or just like pay attention to details, just like this one, and then just like this one. But I think you understood the concept, so that's fine. And then the next question is just a little bit more tricky. Now this one, let's look at your answers. So this was basically your answer. Okay. Don't mind about the errors here. I just don't have the class declared up here. So it's just giving me errors. So same thing for this one. You want to make sure that it is a method. And we are checking if this equals the variety of each cookies, right? So first, this is good that you're looking through every element. And if cookie var dot equals, that is good. Orders dot get I. Up to this part is good. Do you think you can find any code to replace this part right here? Just like we did in the previous question. Yep. So we can use the method that they already gave to us. So we can call the get variety method from cookie order class. So if we check that the variety of the current cookie order in the list is the same as this cookie, we want to first, good, get the number of boxes added to your duplicates. One more thing, you want to change this to which one again? Good. So this should be get num boxes. And then you want to do orders.remove. Very good. That's what you use for list. And then so basically you don't even need this part. For .remove method for your list, you just have to indicate the index of the object. I don't think you have to actually put in the whole object by calling that, because that actually returns like the whole object. But I think you can just use I, which just tells this method or to remove the object at index I. Does that make sense? Okay, so there's actually one error in this code. So basically when, let's say you have a list of object 1, object 2, object 3, and then currently that'll be index 0, index 1, and index 2, right? Now let's say current equals 0, you're checking the first element, and you want to remove this one, right? So you see that you check that the cookie variety is the same, and then so you increase your duplicate, and then you do remove this method or this object. Now once you do that, the indexing for your list actually changes again. So this becomes your second object becomes your first object. But at the end of this for loop, you've already increased your I. So now I equals 1. So your code will start checking your list starting from this one right here, from the second object, because that is the object that is in your index 1. Do you see what I'm saying? So you actually basically skip over this object, so you never get to check if this one is equal to cookie variety. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So do you think you can think of like one way to fix that in your code right here? Okay, well, like one way to fix this small error is whenever you remove an object, you can actually just do I minus minus here, so that this actually becomes 0, and you get to check from your first element again after removing this one. Or, good, it makes sense. Or you can basically do the same thing, but you can actually start from the end. So order stat size -1, and then you can go until it is greater than or equal to 0. And then you can have I decrease. Then you wouldn't even need this line, because if you're checking from the end, so like index 0, 1, 2, and then you have cookie 1, cookie 2, cookie 3, like that. So basically we would start looking from your last object right here, right? So we would look at your very last object in the list, and you see that this is equal to the cookie bar. So you want to remove that one. So you delete this. And then now your I decrements, and then it becomes 1. So now then you get to look at this one, and then you see that this one is also the one to remove, so you can remove that one, and then at the end of that, your I decreases again, and then you go to 0, and then you look at your last element. So if you look from the end, you wouldn't have to explicitly write like I minus minus or I plus plus here in the code. But if you do decide to look from the beginning of the for loop, so let's say if you go from like 0 to the end of the list, you just have to remember to include I minus minus. Does that make sense? Okay, do you have any other questions on this? All right, then I will, so Hannah will go over the next part with you for question number 2.
Hey, Amanda. Okay, so now let's go over the second question. Can you see my screen? Okay, great. So this is the answer that I wrote out for this problem, but we're going to compare it to your code. Let me just put yours in. Give me a second. Oh, that spacing got very messed up. Is there a way to quickly do this? Okay, let's just go through really fast and make this look a little bit nicer. Okay, so you did a pretty good job with this question, Amanda. This was the first question, I believe, on one of the previous AP tests. So the first question is always going to be the easiest one on the test, and so you want to try to spend the least amount of time doing these first ones. And so you did a good job with this, and I think that you finished it pretty fast, so that was good. So our code mostly looks the same. The only thing is just remember in your constructor, when you put in your parameter variables, make sure that you put in what type A, B, and C are. So up here for mine, I made sure that I put that they were all integers. Also, you don't have to put that these variables are public. And the question didn't ask you to specify whether they are public or private, but just some good coding practice to know. Usually when you create your own class, you want to make your variables private, because if you were using this class in the real world, usually you wouldn't want the user to have access to these variables. Instead, you would want getters and setters, like how we have our getSlope method, in order for them to find out the information that they need from the class versus being able to directly look at it and change it. So that's just a little thing that you don't need this public. And more than likely, if you were to be coding this in the real world, it would be private. But that doesn't really matter that much. For this question, you wouldn't get any points taken off for that. But besides that, it looks good. So our getSlope methods, I just said you can return negative a divided by b. What you wrote down is also fine. Just like, once again, this is less code, but it really doesn't matter that much. And yeah, you would get very good points for this. The only real thing is just to remember to put in your variable types for method parameters. So that was it for that question. Do you have any other questions? Okay, great. So that is it for today's webinar. Just a date coming up. We have an in-person meeting at UMD on Sunday, April 15th, if you want to put that in your calendar, and we will be sending more info out about that shortly. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for coming to today's webinar. All right, bye.
Have a great day. Bye.